I'm also an entrepreneur. I spent most of the last 10 years building a company called Makers. I founded in 2013 to help complete beginners to become professional software developers. And in 2020, right before I moved to Portugal, I stepped down as a CEO, hired someone else to run the business instead of me. And now I'm just a non-executive director there. So I'm not operationally involved anymore.
I would love to talk about a very exciting chapter in your journey, which is this book that you're just about to finish writing about CEO transitions. Could you tell us a high-level summary
Yeah.
of the book, maybe sort of the 80-20, what would people
Yeah.
need to know in order to decide whether it's right for
Yeah.
them or not?
Let me tell you how the book came about. When I stepped down as a CEO, I had no experience of how to extract myself out of the startup that I was running, because I was doing it for the first time. And who's got this experience more than once? You usually do it once. And I realized that there was next to no literature or blogs. There was next to nothing on the topic of how do you leave the company you founded while the company is still alive. And then when I started coaching others, I noticed that other founders are reaching out to me because of this experience, because they're thinking about stepping down, or maybe they are stepping down, or maybe their board has asked them to step down. And so I noticed that part of my coaching practice started to gravitate towards founders who are in transition, who are trying to figure out how to extract themselves out of their business. And so the book is about CEO succession in startups. It's really about two questions. How do you make a decision? If you start thinking about leaving your business, how do you make a decision you're confident in? And second, if you do decide to step down, how do you get it right the first time? Because there is communication, negotiation, choice of successor, handover, figuring out what's next for you, and a myriad of other questions around it. And everyone is doing it for the first time with hardly any experience. And so I wrote a book to write down all the lessons I learned in my own transition out of my CEO position, and also based on many conversations, coaching conversations with founders who found themselves in a similar situation.
Could we start off by going into your CEO transition story?
Yeah.
What were the highs and the lows of your personal experience?
So I started the business to train students, to help students to learn to code and change their jobs. So the beginning of the business was about helping individuals get better careers, find the job they love. But the problem was that as the business started to grow and scale, we realized that we need to shift the business model towards companies, away from B2C and towards B2B. And today, and this is the right move for the business. Today, we make 80% of our revenue from companies like Microsoft and Google and Deloitte and the UK government and so on. But this is a very different company compared to where I started. And so at around a few years in, I realized that I am leading the company. I'm doing what the company needs and what is the right thing to do, but I'm progressively unsatisfied by what I'm doing professionally. I'm just not enjoying my job day to day. And the company needs, for the next stage of growth, for the next decade, the company needs a CEO who really understands the needs of large corporates, which is a whole different game compared to a consumer business. And so these are essentially personal and professional reasons why I made the decision to replace myself with someone else. In hindsight, it was a great move because I feel much happier in my new career as a founder coach. The business is led by a great new CEO. Her name is Claudia, and she's doing much better job than I could ever do. It's a win-win on all sides. And looking back as a board of directors, I think we navigated the transition from me to Claudia quite well, which was one of the reasons why I thought, hey, my experience can be useful to other people. Let me take what I learned from others, what I learned myself, and put it in one place.
We'll come back to some of the specific stories potentially of your
I've got many.
transition experience. But first, rewinding the clock. If we're talking to early stage founders, maybe people who are pre-Series A, and they're looking ahead, how likely is it that someone can predict whether the business will fulfill them in the future versus not? And are there any things that can be put in place to ensure that either they feel fulfilled by the work that they're doing, or is it just a fact of the business will evolve regardless of what we do and we have to therefore just adapt?
I think it's the latter. We need to adapt. It's really difficult to predict how things will go because we're talking about the evolution over several years, both for the founder and for the business. So a lot of things change over the years. If I think about myself when I started the business, and if I think about myself when I stepped down as the CEO, and if I think myself today, it's almost like three different individuals. So a lot of things do change. However, there are a few things we can do to facilitate any changes if needed. First, normalize the possibility of the transition in the first place. There is a narrative that people like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos are the right role models, taking their companies all the way from an idea to the first hire, to the first sale, to a global empire. But this is just one option out of many, and this is not what's right for most companies and most founders. It's perfectly fine to get the business from an idea to a product market fit and then hire someone else to scale it. Because in a way, the job of a founder and the job of a CEO who scales the company are two very different jobs, which is sometimes not obvious because the job title doesn't change. We start the company and I call myself, okay, I'm a CEO of a business of one or with two employees, but you are not really a CEO if there is no business. We really step into the role of a CEO when the company finds product market fit and starts building an organization which delivers the product which meets the needs of the customers, which often tends to happen around maybe 30, 50 people mark when there is a team, a proper senior management layer with experienced executives in their roles, and the company has a reasonable degree of product market fit.
Quick 10-second pause to say that our newsletter is the highest value per sentence in your inbox. We share systems, prompts, and scripts that you can use today because content without action is just noise. All the links in the description. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So can we touch on what is required from the founder at different stages of the business? So we have pre-product market fit, we have product market fit, 30, 50 people, maybe then what's the next milestone in terms of employee headcount, in terms of turnover, that then there's a different skill or role required from the leader?
At the beginning, we're founders. The job of a founder is to make sure the company doesn't die on takeoff. The job is literally survival and finding the product market fit, getting the company from default dead to default alive state. So this is the job of a founder, regardless of what kind of title they've got. Do whatever you can to make sure this thing survives. But at some point you find product market fit. It's, as I said, it's often, not always, it's really, every startup is different, but let's say 30 to 50 people is a common stage when the company has a sense of what it's doing, there is a business model, and now the task is to build an organization that delivers the product that serves the customer needs. So the role of the CEO shifts from finding the product market fit to building an organization which refines the product market fit, which builds the product, but the object of attention is the organization rather than, let's say, the product itself. And then as the company starts to grow, the role of the CEO evolves. When you're a CEO of a company of 50 people, you know everyone by name. You recognize everyone in the office. You probably have conversation with each of them at different with each team member at different frequencies. But when it gets past 150 or 200 people, you might not even know if the person you meet in the office is a visitor or the new employee or even the old employee. And suddenly you are managing not just this senior layer, you are managing other managers. You are becoming further away from what's happening at the front line. Each of those transition points changes what's required of the chief executive. It prompts the chief executive or the founder or CEO to evolve the skill set. And in a way, it's a new job with the same title. And if a founder decides that, okay, I've got the business from here to here or from here to there, and now someone else can take it forward, this is really a mark of success. It's not a failure. There is a really wrong narrative, I think, in the entrepreneurial community that that we've got to take our businesses either to an exit or to death, that there are no other options. There are other options. Get it to a product market fit, hire someone else who's got the skills to scale it. And that can be a genuine win-win for everyone.
So can we double click on the specific skills that you think are needed at different stages? So pre-product market fit, it feels like it's about selling the vision. It's about being able to raise enough funding to get to product market fit if you're a venture-backed business.
So selling the vision is always important, but some of the most important skills of the founder is doing whatever it takes to make sure that the company is successful. A founder relies on their intuition to figure out what's going to work. Starting startups is not an exact science. There is a lot of science to it. Absolutely. There are tried and tested methods, and it's absolutely not just a random guesswork. But at the same time, it's not a predictable process that you can document, hire other people to do. And this is why founders matter so much, especially pre-product market fit. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to hire into this role because how the company works it's got to be pretty much an expression of the founder, which continues to be true for throughout the lifetime of the company, but it's especially relevant at the very early stages. It's really your vision, your baby, and your intuition about what's right and what's wrong. A founder has influence over everything that's happening in the company. A founder talks to the customers, influences the product, and attracts the best people. Often, by the way, by selling the vision, because at the beginning there is little traction and little money, so the founder really has to persuade capable people who have other attractive options to join your company. But when the company starts to refine their product market fit and there is something that works, suddenly different skills become more relevant. A CEO needs to be really good at communication. They need to know how to communicate in a different way, in a more deliberate, more precise way. They need to be much more organized and much more strategic. A founder is thinking about the next quarter, what do I need to do to make sure we don't run out of money and learn something useful? A CEO needs to think many years ahead of how do we win in this three-dimensional chess and what matters long-term. A CEO is allocating resources and making long-term bets. A founder is also making long-term bets, but also operating on a very short horizon, iterating and learning as quickly as possible. The jobs are similar from some perspective, but also very different from another perspective. The main difference is I would describe as the founder focuses on the product, making sure that the product hits the product market fit. And the CEO focuses on the company that does all of this.
And then what about the scale-up CEO? How does the product market fit role then change to large organizations?
Depending on the scale of the organization and the specific of the organization, different skills become necessary. For example, international expansion. How do you enter different markets? For mergers and acquisitions, how do we allocate money to buy smaller companies and how do we integrate them into our operation? And this is a very specific skill set. And founders who are operating at a small scale just don't have these problems. If you need to get to a certain level of success to figure out, to say that, okay, we are big enough in this market, but there is this adjacent market that we need to enter into, or we want to acquire our competitor, or something like this. It's just a task of a different scale. And again, it might well require a different person, or maybe the founder or CEO will continue learning and growing. There is no right or wrong answer here. Both options are possible, and both options are valid.
And so then what are the skills that you need throughout? You spoke about selling the vision. What else?
Hiring people and managing them. Whether you've got 6 people on your team, or 60 people, or 600 people on your team, the task of attracting high quality talent, retaining them, managing them, setting the bar high, and defining the culture is still in your hands as the CEO. Selling the vision. Whether you are selling the vision to the first employee, first customer, first investor, or you're taking your company public and speaking to big investors, you are still selling the vision, and it's got to be inspiring. And fundraising. Again, closely related to selling the vision, but making sure there is cash in the bank and the company has resources to invest. In a way, what I've just described is a framework to describe what any CEO is doing. Here is the vision, what needs to be done. Here is the team that can make it happen. And here is the money that this team can spend to make it happen. And then the CEO effectively moves between these 3 things, refining where the company is going, attracting the right people to make it happen, and making sure they've got money in the bank to spend. And all the credit goes to Fred Wilson. Fred Wilson is a partner at Union Square Ventures, a VC in the States. He wrote a blog post in 2011, I think, effectively outlining this framework. And it served me and countless other entrepreneurs really, really well, because it describes a fairly complex job in very clear and succinct terms, which helps to figure out what to focus on and what to ignore or delegate. Because our to-do list is quite literally infinite. There are always so many things we can do as founders. And so one of the questions which often comes up in coaching conversations is, what do I focus on? What's important? And going back to this framework, to understanding what your job is, setting the vision, hiring the team, managing resources, often can bring clarity on what is important, what you need to focus on.
So then, coming back to your personal experience, what was the journey of realizing that you weren't the right CEO for the business and it was time to look for someone else or move on? How did that transpire for you?
The first alarm bell, let's put it this way, was a depressive episode in 2016, which I felt was connected to work, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. It didn't cause me to leave the business, but it felt like there is something wrong with what I'm doing, or how I'm doing it. There is some big misalignment between how I feel on the inside and what I'm doing on the outside. And I think in hindsight, that depressive episode was there to really make me think about how I'm living my life and what choices I'm making. And then I spent 2 years, which is probably a bit too long in hindsight. I spent about 2 years between 2017 and 2019 really thinking, should I stay? Should I go? Should I hire someone else? But how do I do it? But there is so much to do. So basically, all these questions in my mind felt impossible. It felt like it was impossible to resolve them. And so I sat on the fence, procrastinating and not really making a decision for too long. But eventually in 2019, quite literally on the day when we closed the funding round, I sat down with Claudia, who was then my chair. The cash hit the bank literally as we were ordering our coffees for breakfast on Friday morning. And I said that, Claudia, something is not right. My marriage had collapsed. I'm seeing a psychiatrist that afternoon to talk about my mental health. this is not a resignation. I'm very happy to run the company for another 1 or 2 years or however long it takes to find the right CEO. But here are the reasons why I think it would be the right move to hire a new chief executive one day. And that kind of put things in motion. And about 14 months later, I stepped down as a CEO.
That's a long time.
It's
in a role that isn't fulfilling you.
It's yes, but at the same time, there is a good lesson here. CEO transitions take time. With most other jobs, you give your notice, you quit, you find another job, and often you can start searching for another job and interviewing for something else before you give your notice. So the process is simpler. With a CEO transition, it takes anything between 6 and 24 months. Because it takes time to figure out whether it's the right decision, to figure out who the new CEO should be, to orchestrate the search, to find candidates. Those candidates are probably employed elsewhere with long notice periods. So even if it's the right candidate, they might have a 6 months notice period because they've got a CEO job elsewhere. And so by the time all of this is done, it can easily be a year or a year and a half before you can shut your laptop and do something else. So the lesson here is that it is really important not to wait until the last moment to start making some meaningful changes. Because the mistake some founders make is that they wait until they literally can't do it anymore, and then they come to the board and say, "I'm burnt out. I can't show up in the office anymore. I'm out by Friday afternoon." And then the board is like, well, what do we do from here? We're effectively without CEO, or we need to rush the process, which is not a good position to be in. So it's really, really worth it to start orchestrating the transition without any rush while you still have a year or 2 years to run the business.
And so going back to the point that feels largely individual, which is figuring out whether it's the right decision. How did that transpire for you, and what have you taken from your experience?
For me, most of the reasons were personal. I just felt fundamentally misaligned with what I do or how I was living my life. For other founders, it can be very different. Some founders are asked to leave by their boards. Some founders find themselves in situations when their company can't afford them. Some founders have health-related challenges. Some founders are, let's say, they consider starting a family and they just don't want to have a super high-pressure job while having a baby at home, and they just very reasonably decide to focus on the family. So everyone's situation is different. But for me, it was a deep sense of misalignment and the feeling that what I'm doing is not what I should be doing professionally.
Can we go into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah.
What was that misalignment specifically?
Going a bit deeper, I realized at some point that many of my professional choices, including starting this business in the first place, were driven by a deep sense of insecurity, going all the way to my childhood. As a child, I felt like I didn't fit in. I wanted to belong. I wanted to be accepted by my classmates at school, and I didn't. I always felt like I'm the odd one out, and that was a bit of a lonely experience. But the outcome of this was that I grew up with this desire to find my people, to find my tribe, to find a community where I would have lots of compassionate connections, where I would be respected and liked and just accepted for who I am. And the way my mind tried to navigate it is effectively my mind came up with a strategy of being a founder, because I felt like being a geek at heart. I studied computer science. I love computers. I found the community of tech founders, and it felt like, oh, they are my people. But how do you become part of the community? Well, you build a startup. And that's basically how I came to starting a business as a way to meet a deep psychological need to belong, to be liked and respected, and in a way it worked. I love being part of the founder community, and I've got many wonderful friends who are also founders. But also, once I started seeing how this mechanism works, I also started to realize that maybe I don't need this mechanism to be okay. Maybe I, just as a human being, I can be liked and respected and accepted without a business card that says founder and CEO. And also, I realized over the years that the work that I really like doing involves deep, meaningful personal connections, conversations. And this is why it was important that I started the business in the business to consumer space. I was working directly with students. The business was there to make a difference in the lives of individuals. I could point to a specific person and say, okay, his name is Neil, and this is how he changed his career thanks to our training. And that was deeply meaningful to me. And as the company started to grow and shift towards business to business, I found myself waking up on Monday morning and going to have a meeting with the HR team at, let's say, at a large retailer or a large consultancy to talk about their talent needs and their talent strategy for the next 5 years. And that's just not what gets me out of bed. At some point, my coach, the coach I was working with, he asked me, can you open your calendar and tell me which meetings you are looking forward to and which meetings you don't want to be in? And I opened my calendar and I realized I don't want to be in any single meeting there. Like, I was not looking forward to any single conversation. I knew I had to do it because that was my job. But there were relatively few elements of the job that I genuinely enjoyed. And of course, it's not the end of the world. And I must also say that I'm in an incredibly privileged position to even make these choices in the first place, because a great number of people, if not most people in this world, are probably stuck in jobs they don't like, that they have to do in order to pay their bills. But that was my situation and my motivation. I felt like, yes, I can do it. Yes, it helps the company. Yes, I love the company, but I'm going to end up with another depressive episode if I don't make some meaningful change.
Thanks for sharing. You have two aspects of this. One is starting the company for not the most sustainable reasons, or reasons that are misaligned, and then recognizing the new direction which the company is going in doesn't excite you anymore. If we go back to the first one, which is the reasons why you start the company, are there any questions that you asked yourself or you were asked which helped you come to this realization that you started the company for the wrong reasons?
There were a few things that that helped. One thing was reflecting on my day-to-day experience and trying to draw the line between what's difficult, but it needs to be done, and what's really difficult, but it's not my challenge to meet. There are lots of things in life that are difficult. The fact that something is difficult or painful is not a problem per se. Every single person is guaranteed some pain in their life, and this is not an issue in itself. But there are some challenges that are ours to meet, and some challenges that are not ours to meet. Like, for example, there are people who take it as a challenge to run a marathon on every continent, for example, and this is their challenge. It's not my challenge. It doesn't make me a lesser person that I'm not even trying to do it. It's just not my challenge to run a marathon on every continent. But for someone else, it can be their challenge. And so for me, it was important to realize that building makers might be difficult, but that's not the problem. It's not that it's difficult. It's that it's not the right kind of challenge for me personally. Reflecting on the difference between wanting and longing also felt quite helpful and meaningful for me. At some point, I realized that my desires and my wants are coming from a place of an ego. It feels like I'm not enough or I'm not complete if I don't get something. I want it. Like I'm hungry, I want some food. Or I see a beautiful car and I feel like, oh, it would be real nice to buy this car. Like this is a desire. But longing comes from a different place entirely. It comes from the heart. It comes from a vision of a different world. It's a longing to make the world a better place, and it comes from some other place than ego. And the more I started to connect to what my heart longs for and how it's different to what my mind wants, the more I saw how these two things are disconnected. My mind wanted me to build my business and sell it for a lot of money and buy a lot of expensive toys. And my heart was longing for some really quite simple, nice, unsophisticated lifestyle, meaningful conversations with interesting people, and just not feeling like I've got to be on email all the time. My ego doesn't even want this. And in a way, my ego has all kinds of fears around, but what if you are not on email all the time? What if you can't make money by living in a simple lifestyle? But that's different from longing that is inviting me or is calling me in that direction. So reflecting on this was definitely helpful, and talking to other entrepreneurs, and coaches, trying to see if I can see myself in them a few years down the line. And I would meet founders who are running much larger businesses, who have far more experience as entrepreneurs, and we would have interesting conversations, and they would be very interesting people, and I maybe would be a bit even envious of the amount of money they made in the process. But I would look at them and realize that's not me in the future. There is nothing wrong with it, but that's just not who I am deep inside. And so, and at the same time, I don't really want to make it sound like I spent 2 years having or contemplating big philosophical questions. In day to day, it often felt like my hair was on fire. There was 1, 2, or 5 emergencies at the office on any given day, and I was just trying to manage all of it under constant pressure, which is part of startup life. But at the same time, I kept wondering, do I really need to do it?
If you're like me, you probably skip most of these sponsor reads. So here's the deal. If you give me 1 minute of your time, I'll give you 1 minute of my suffering at 3 degrees Celsius. Because today's sponsor is Monk Ice Baths. Oh. Now, you've probably heard the hype around cold water therapy and the benefits that it has on your mental health with reduced stress and improved sleep, and then your physical health with muscle recovery and improved circulation. And maybe you've even put together a little DIY version where you turned a chest freezer into an ice bath. I'm really cold. Or you've bought one of those basic, cheap, crap versions, both of which come with a lot of complications. That's why Monk is your best bet, because it's... I've really lost my train of thought. Which is why Monk is your best option if you're looking to seriously invest in your mental and physical health. Backed by elite athletes like Anthony Joshua, Monk is the most professional and accessible ice bath there is. So, if you're looking to be an elite performer and invest seriously in your mental and physical health, then go to discovermonk.com and use code SCALEWITHSOUL at checkout for a £100 discount, or go to the link in the description. Now, I love this, so I'm going to stay in for a bit longer, but I think you should get back to the episode.
So how do we move from this place of want more to a place of longing?
By slowing down. The more we slow down, the more we allow things to be, and the more we listen to what emerges, the clearer it will be. This is why it's so helpful to go on retreats or just take time off without your phone or without your laptop, to just be in nature and allow the entire system to slow down, to allow the nervous system to cool down, to allow our energetic system to cool down a little bit, to allow our desires and our fears to become a little bit quieter. And when we slow down, when we meditate, when we start to listen what is going on in our bodies, in our minds, in our lives, we get a sense of clarity around what needs to be done. It's much more about listening than it is about deciding. There is on this note, there is a beautiful book, a very short book, but very beautiful, called Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer. Parker Palmer writes about his life and how in his life he tried to figure out what he wants to do, and he was trying to be this and that, trying different things in different vocations, and always feeling like he was doing some fundamentally wrong thing, until he effectively gave up and started listening to what his life was trying to tell him about who he is. And when he started listening to what his life is telling him about who he is, as opposed to what he wants from his life, things started to get in alignment. It's a very short but very beautiful book about a very simple idea that served me and many others.
So it sounds like there's a very clear shift in your definition of success.
Yes.
Can you talk about how that changed?
I think if you asked me 10 years ago, I would talk about success as something external. A goal or a condition or something. Maybe a success would be making a certain amount of money, or selling the business, or getting somewhere. Today, success feels more like a process of being really present and accepting of whatever is happening. It's less about getting something which is not present right now, and more about being genuinely grateful for what is, because life is incredible. We miss all the small things, like the sunlight in the room, and just the fact that the universe around us is alive, and our bodies are wonderful, and something is happening every single second. We spend so much time in our minds thinking about our past, our futures, our goals, our fears, about basically anything else other than what's happening right here, right now. And if we've got food, shelter, a basic level of safety and healthcare, basically if there is no big emergency going on, that's already a good enough foundation to be perfectly happy. If we just can be satisfied with what is right now. And so today, success for me is less about getting something that I don't have yet, whether it's external or internal, material or immaterial, and more about just being present to how things are right now and feeling like, yeah, that's how things are, and I'm okay with it all. And that's what feels like success today.
You wrote a very impactful article around how most entrepreneurs tie their personal happiness and fulfillment to the success of their startups. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
The premise of that essay was actually really simple. Your startup is not supposed to make you happy. And it sounds very obvious when I say it, but many founders, and that's what I was like just maybe a decade ago, as founders, we feel that the startup is there to somehow fix something. Maybe the startup is there to make us rich, and this is going to be a solution to something, or make us famous, and this is going to be a solution to something. But the problem is that when we expect something external to make us happier, it becomes a never-ending journey. And I know enough successful and wealthy entrepreneurs to say with quite a lot of confidence that selling the company and getting a lot of money in the bank doesn't make anyone rich for more than a few days. Yes, sure, it's very nice to buy some expensive toys and celebrate, and nothing wrong with it. But big fundamental questions that determine how we feel about ourselves don't have much to do with it. People have been trying to figure out what makes us happy for millennia, because it's a very popular question. Everyone wants to feel happy and live their life just content in a good place. And so people have thought about it deeply and seriously in all countries and all cultures for many, many, many thousands of years. And the gist of it is that what makes us happy are things like accepting life as it is instead of trying to change the world how you want it to be. Living a simple lifestyle instead of an extravagant lifestyle. Being a nice person. Just being patient and loving and courageous and compassionate instead of being a dickhead to other people. And also seeing ourselves as part of a community, a society, part of nature, part of this fabric of life, instead of seeing yourself as an individual hero who is going to conquer the world and bend the world to their will. And the trouble is that our society, the way we live today, we are conditioned to live in a way that is almost designed to make us unhappy. This is not to say that that successful people can't be happy and so on. It's a complex relationship. But if I think about entrepreneurs specifically, as entrepreneurs, we are almost expected to see ourselves as a hero who's going to come up with a genius idea and then work hard to change the world in a meaningful way, put a dent in the universe, and be respected for an incredible amount of success that you achieve along the way. And this is the way, or maybe the way, to build category-defining companies and great products. And there is nothing wrong with it per se. But the way to being happy and deeply content with your life is different. It's around accepting reality, feeling deep connection with the universe around you, and having a simpler life rather than having 14 meetings a day, of which 10 are on Zoom. So my point is not that it's not possible to be successful and happy. It absolutely is possible. But my point is that we should not confuse two things. We should not expect that our wealth or startups or success or really anything else is going to make us happy, because it will not. We need to see these things as two separate things. There is my well-being, my life choices, what works for me and what makes me happier, which is one thing. And then there is what I do professionally and how it goes is important in many ways, but it doesn't really define me as a person, or is not a condition for my success in life.
Interestingly, on this topic, I read a book not too long ago called The Happiness Advantage. Have you read that?
No, I haven't. Tell me more.
It's by an author called Sean Akel, and it talks about this equation that we have, or this link that we've come up with in modern society, which is that success leads to happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, he argues that the equation is back to front. And the happier that we are, the healthier, wealthier, and more successful we will become. And so they are linked in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but we fundamentally put them back to front and then become so frustrated when the success doesn't make us happy.
Yeah.
And it feels like it all links back to this point you said at the start, which is about slowing down and being present.
Yeah.
And you said ways to do that are take time out, go in the countryside and in nature, go on retreats, take intentional time to slow down, because the fast-paced nature of startup life puts us in this stress response and this fight or flight state. For me, it feels like relying on a break instead of feeling stress for a period of time and then needing a pause. I want to be able to work sustainably at a high cadence.
Yeah.
Continuously. And yes, we'll still take breaks and take pauses and take time to zoom out and reflect. But is there methods or approaches you've taken to bringing that into the day-to-day?
I think it's possible, but it is genuinely hard. And also, it really depends on stage. I don't think it's a feasible goal or realistic goal at a very early stage. If we think about a venture-backed or a venture-scale startup, or maybe any new endeavor, trying to create something out of nothing takes a lot of energy, a lot of hard work, and this probably will have an impact on well-being. Just like if a couple decide to have a baby, they will probably have some sleepless nights as a side effect, because the first period of life of a baby is seriously intense. The way I see it, it is an absolutely valid choice to choose to work in a really intense way for a period of time if this is required and this is what you want to do. But whether you want to live like this for the next 20 years, that's a different question. But equally, I don't think but as I've said, I don't think it's realistic to aim to start a venture scale business on a part-time effort purely because you're competing with people who are working 16-hour days like crazy. It's just a choice that everyone makes according to their circumstances and their life goals. And also the idea of what is the right way to live is different for every people, and different people have very different level of privilege in life as well. Someone who is starting with a bit of family money and excellent education and other advantages will probably have it easier than someone who doesn't have those privileges. So my point is, it is complex, it is very individual, but I don't think we can genuinely have it all at all times, especially when it comes to working in a sustainable way and starting something new at the same time. Initial period is difficult.
I suppose the thing that doesn't quite align with me is this idea of time invested into work. So as you say, at the start of the company, you have to invest a lot of time. You have to work long hours. There's so much to be done.
Yeah.
You're almost permanently under-resourced. And so therefore you have to push yourself to get more done than you might choose to. I suppose the thing I'm trying to double click on more is the state in which you're working for a long time. So you can have two founders, they're both working 16-hour days. One feels perpetually stressed and the other feels calmer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to me, the obvious thing here comes down to the practice that you've adopted in the past decade, which is meditation, reconnecting with your breath, your body, the present moment. Is there anything else which moves us from this state of perpetual stress through to a more calm and sustainable way of working long hours?
So various practices, some of which you named, absolutely help. Meditation, anything somatic that brings you out of the mind into the body. Qigong, again, energy management that helps to bring the energy down and relax a little bit. Psychological work, just sorting through stuff in our unconscious that all of us have. All of this can be tremendously helpful. But another factor that I think it's worth mentioning is that different people are different. Different people have very different level of sensitivity and needs. Someone is able to work 16-hour days and feel okay, and someone will probably never get to the point of working really hard and feeling reasonably chilled in the process. So it is highly individual, and that's why the approach I would advocate is not so much figuring out universal rules that would work for everyone, but rather learning how to stay attentive to what works for you, what's right for you, what do you need to do in this life, what matters to you, how your body works, and then make the right choices for you. It's I think it's probably a shorter route to figuring out what's the right way or what's the helpful way to live for you than trying to figure out general rules that would work for everyone.
So that covers the state in which we are working. So it's highly individual. There are lots of techniques, and we should explore to find out what feels most aligned with us. And there is also this time element. Everyone has the same amount of hours in the day. However, some people use them more efficiently. In the pre-product market stage of building the business, it's pretty much guaranteed that if you're building a venture-backed company that you're going to have to invest lots of time. However, you can get to that product market fit stage if you collectively invest that time in a more focused and efficient way. So how do you think about this working smart when we know we have to work hard?
Even if you are working really hard, even if you choose to work really hard or feel like you need to work really hard for a period of time, there are still a lot of things we can do. Look after yourself. Enough sleep, good food. If you don't smoke, if you don't drink, if you just look after your physical body, it will help. Practices like meditation will certainly help if you've got a daily practice. If you feel like you don't have time, I promise you, taking half an hour or an hour a day to meditate will make the other 15 hours or however you choose to work more productive, because you will be just in a different place, making better choices, and just seeing the world in a slightly different way. Having support from someone else, like a therapist or a trusted friend or someone who can be there to help you make sense of what's happening, can also be tremendously helpful. Again, it looks like an investment of time and money, and it is. At the same time, looking back, if throughout my 20s I was seeing a therapist once a week, not for any specific reason, but just to just to have a conversation about whatever was happening on their mind, I'm pretty sure it would have had significant positive impact on my well-being, and would have prevented me from making some stupid choices that that I might have made. So my point is, looking after ourselves physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, can give us a really good foundation to work hard. In other words, if we're working hard, let's make sure we're doing a lot of quality hard work. Not like when we are completely exhausted and we wake up exhausted and then we keep pushing ourselves and we just never get enough rest, but working really hard, getting really tired, looking after ourselves to the best of our ability, seeing it as a big investment in our well-being, which in turn enables us to work hard. There is one aspect here which I think many founders really don't appreciate it, or don't appreciate enough. It's the quality of our decision making. When we are not at our best, we generally make worse decisions. When we make worse decisions, it generally leads to more work and often unpleasant work. As in, we make a mistake, then we need to sort out the mistake. Or I'm tired, I say something to someone which I later regret, which breaks the relationship, which leads to other problems down the line. If we are rested, if we're in a good place, if we're making good decisions, we may be working hard, but we will be creating less unnecessary work for ourselves. If I think about what I was doing as a CEO, I can definitely remember times when I was really busy with something and working really hard to get something done. But with the benefit of hindsight, if I took half an hour or an hour to really slow down and think, does it need to be done in the first place, or is there something more important? I probably would have decided not to do it in the first place. And that would have been a big win for my business or well-being. So my point is that, yes, if you choose to work really hard, by all means work really hard, but see you're looking after yourself as part of the effort that provides the foundation which enables you to actually do high quality work. Because if we sleep 5 hours, then work for 15 hours and then drink and watch Netflix to forget about how stressful it is, it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be nearly as efficient as it could be.
The phrase that comes to mind for me is, the main thing is keep the main thing the main thing.
And for this, we need a clear mind and presence and awareness of what's going on. Yeah.
So let's assume that, like, take my routine, for example. I definitely don't meditate to the level that you do. When you said an hour, I was like, immediately had a thought where I was like, oh, wow, am I meditating enough? But I think it's the same, in which it's a very individualistic thing.
It's highly individual. And by the way, speaking of length of meditation, consistency matters much more than the length. If you do meditate, do 15 minutes consistently rather than 1 hour once in a while.
Assuming that I look after myself, I meditate, I eat healthy, I drink enough water, I sleep enough, I exercise. How do you then help founders work through decisions?
Well, there really isn't just one universal move that would be, let's say, good for decision making for all situations. But as a general principle, getting clarity on what's going on before figuring out what to do is a good approach. Getting as much awareness about what's happening right now, in as many perspectives of as much awareness of what the situation is before deciding what to do. Very often we jump into, okay, here are 3 possible options. Which one do I choose? It's a valid question, but it can be really helpful to say, okay, before we even think about possible options, let's explore what's going on as much as we can. The second thing is that often when we feel like we can't make a decision and when we are overwhelmed, we are in our head. And I'm talking about really an anxious and overwhelmed state that I think many founders are familiar with. In this situation, trying to figure out what the right thing to do is not as important as bringing the overall energy down and just calming down and lowering the overall energy in the system before getting to the question. And here, grounding practices can be genuinely helpful. Whether it's meditation, going for a walk in nature, doing some qigong or yoga, this can be genuinely helpful because it will bring clarity to whatever is next. Funny enough, this is a piece of advice that I would have found highly counterintuitive myself just a few years ago. And I know from my own experience that a lot of founders do find counterintuitive. We often feel like, okay, I've got this big problem. Maybe I don't know what to do with the funding round, and I've got a term sheet and I need to send a reply tomorrow. And it all feels really big and I need to think about it. And we need to be in a good state to make good decisions. Quite often, the best thing we can do in such a situation, unless it's a really time-sensitive emergency of some kind, the best thing we can do is to say, okay, I'm going to forget about all of this. I'll go for a walk, have a nice lunch, have a yoga class, do some qigong, do whatever works for my body to ground myself, get into a place when I'm not in a fight or flight response, when I feel calm and safe and present, and my nervous system is relaxed. And then from that grounded, relaxed place, let's take a look at the term sheet again. And I guarantee you it will look different. Because when our nervous system is in a fight or flight response, when we see the world in a very specific way, when our nervous system doesn't experience the world as a threat, when we are relaxed and grounded and just feeling good, the world looks to us in a different way. And so quite often shifting the state of our nervous system, shifting how we feel, is a better decision-making technique than actually looking at the decision. And on this note, one of the fastest, if there are any shortcuts here, and there are not many, but if there are any shortcuts here, one of the shortcuts to changing the state of the nervous system is breathwork. Not meditation, not something else, but breathwork. Even 10-15 minutes of doing breathwork exercises of breathing in a specific pattern to calm the nervous system down can do absolute magic.
Can you give us an example of a breathwork exercise that you've used in the past?
There are so maybe the most well-known is box breath. Let's say 4 counts breathe in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts breathe out, 4 counts hold, again 4 counts breathe in. Another really good pattern is having an exhale which is longer than an inhale. Let's say you do inhale for 4, exhale for 6, or inhale for 4, exhale for 8. There are countless variations. But you can also do a pyramid when you do inhale for 1, exhale for 1, inhale for 2, exhale for 2, inhale for 3, exhale for 3, and go all the way to 15. Inhale for 15, exhale for 15, and then down. Inhale for 14, exhale for 14, and then you do it, let's say, a couple of times up and down. It takes 20 minutes. Your body, your nervous system will be in a different state by the end of it. And on this note, there is an absolutely excellent breathwork app called Othership, from I think it's a Canadian company. Beautifully designed, an extensive library of breathwork experiences. I've recommended it to multiple clients. I use it myself on I think most days. It's absolutely great to either calm down the nervous system or quite the opposite. If you feel sluggish and you need to find some energy, instead of having a double espresso, you can do 20 minutes of breath work in a fast pattern. Let's say 3 in, 1 out, 3 in, 1 out, 3 in, 1 out. That can really energize your nervous system and wake you up. Like breathwork is wonderful. It's cheap. It's fast. The only thing about breathwork is that, as far as you can tell, it doesn't necessarily lead to lasting changes like meditation. Meditation is a practice which doesn't give you immediate results. Like you meditate for 15 minutes and you might be as anxious by the end of it as when you started. But if you keep doing it year after year, over the years, it will change you quite significantly. Don't know if the same can be said about breathwork, but as a quick intervention, breathwork is great.
The balance of the two feels like.
Yeah, just different practices for different reasons. Both are really helpful.
Very practical and actionable. Thank you. I'd love to move now more onto you outside of your working life.
Yes.
How do you spend your time when not coaching, when not writing your book, when not doing podcasts?
I really have a very simple lifestyle. Outside work, sometimes I go for a walk along the ocean. Last weekend, my fiancée and we painted a couple of rooms in our flat. So it was just a big DIY project with lots of paint and lots of, I mean, you know what construction or decoration work is like. I go to a local farmer's market, buy some vegetables, cook dinner. I much prefer cooking at home compared to going out. I love travel, whether it's something big and I'm going to another country for a couple of weeks, or it's just a weekend away. It all feels nice. I've got a small, not even a forest, just a patch of trees next to my home, and I like going there for a walk for half an hour in the morning, just to see the trees, see the flowers, feel the sun. Fortunately, there is sun in Portugal, I think 300 out of 365 days. So the weather is always good. And that's it, really.
Quick pause to say, if you found this valuable, then think about who you know who might also find it valuable, because leaders helping other leaders makes the journey that much easier.
Sounds like you spend a lot of time just being. You're not one of the people that maybe listens to a podcast or an audiobook while you walk each day.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. It's podcasts are wonderful. Podcasts are wonderful because you can drive or go for a walk and listen to an interesting conversation. Same with audiobooks. But by and large, yes, if anything, I'm trying to figure out how to make my life simpler rather than more complex.
What was a big revelatory moment in making your life simpler?
If there was a big revelatory moment, I remember a holiday I took it must have been in 2016. I took a holiday in Scotland. I rode along the Scottish coastline on a motorbike and did a meditation retreat at the end of it. And it's somewhere deep in the Scottish countryside. I was sitting by a loch watching some ducks playing in the water, and there was maybe some light rain or some clouds. I was sitting there a bit hungry, waiting for the restaurant to open so that I could have lunch or dinner. I don't remember. And at that moment, it became very clear to me that that moment was perfect as it was. I didn't need anything else. It was just things were okay as they were. I was a bit hungry. The weather was a bit okay. I was a bit tired. I didn't really need anything else for that moment to be just perfect as it was. And just that experience, realizing that I don't need to strive, achieve, make a huge amount of money, or somehow bend the world to my will to feel fundamentally okay, really helped me to connect to something deeper in me that that is just guiding me towards a simpler life. So I don't know if that was a big moment, but it's a moment that stayed with me.
Lastly, you also mentioned your fiancée.
Yes.
And you mentioned how you had a previous marriage that failed when you were in the chaos of the startup.
Yeah.
How is this relationship different?
Yeah. So first, let me say that my focus on the startup and my focus on trying to make it work and spending too much time in the office absolutely contributed to my marriage falling apart. It is a risk, and it's a mistake that I see some other founders making as well. It feels like what's happening in the office is urgent, and what's happening at home is not urgent. It can wait. We can always patch things up later and so on. But I think it's fair to say that after several years of putting the startup ahead of the relationship effectively died as the result of the choices that I made. So if there is a lesson here for anyone listening, is a relationship takes attention. It is important, and it might not feel urgent because it might not feel as urgent as something like fundraising or some HR crisis in the office, but our relationships are incredibly important. And the lesson I took from it into my current relationship that I'm extremely happy with is that it is a priority. My fiancé and I, we spent a lot of time together. I do my best not to make a mistake of saying that actually I'm going to focus on work and I'm not going to focus on something that we said we wanted to do because work is more important. In what way is it more important? It's more important in the sense that I'll make more money so that I could invest it in what I'm doing so that I could have some more work-related tasks to do. Well, it is important in a very obvious and practical sense, but my personal life is also incredibly important, and just acknowledging that this is a priority, spending a lot of time together, not ignoring conflicts or disagreements, and just treating it as an important part of life that it is I think the lesson I took from my previous life experience.
I love that. Well, I had a wonderful conversation with your fiancée beforehand. She had some wonderful things to say about you. Would you like to hear them?
Yes, please. Shall I hit play?
Yeah, go for it.
What do you admire in Evgeny?
I think he's very present and calm, and he's very responsible as well. So he's really, he's really living from the heart. And you can feel that heart wherever you go, So there's also his patience. He's very patient, extremely patient, and he can, not judge. And I think that's what makes him really good at the coaching job. Extremely intelligent as well. Is like, he reads a lot. He's interested a lot in lots of things, and stuff like that. But he's able to construct his viewpoint without jumping into opinions. And again, I think that is what meditation helps to do. So you don't construct sort of just a viewpoint straight away. He's able to be very open and really sort of hold all these narratives together, and is really, sort of, I think that is sort of like a very rare skill, not even a skill, it's ability to do. I feel like I'm trying to explain unexplainable, like even how he proposed, like say you're preparing to do it differently, you have a date and something, but he did it completely the other way around. I know he got the ring like a few months in advance, and then he was just waiting for this perfect time. And that was sort of very lovely because it could be anywhere, really. It was just that moment, that magical moment that just happened, you know. And that was quite special for me personally. I think, you know, in a relationship, we both are kind of very playful as well. We both are, you know, we both doing our things, and we kind of put effort also, you know, to be together, but also we kind of, I don't want to use this word tease, but we kind of, you know, we have this banter going on.
She doesn't want to use the word tease. She teases me all the time.
Well, it was.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for coming. I like to finish with something like that because I think understanding you from your partner's perspective adds so much colour and richness to the conversation. I can only echo what she said in terms of our friendship and our time together, is that you have extreme wisdom and patience and a very non-judgmental manner, which I can guarantee is probably why you're an exceptional coach and why we're all very excited to read your book as well.
Thank you, AJ. Hopefully it will hit the stores in a couple of months.
We'll release this on whenever you need us to. So
Thank you.
Let me know, and then we can drive a lot of traffic. But yeah, very excited and very appreciative and grateful for you coming and sharing your wisdom, because it's been incredibly heartfelt and a beautiful mixture of philosophical but also very practical. So appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you so much, AJ. Thank you for having me.